when they fail to follow through. I suppose the good news here is that LA City Council President and 8th District Representative Marquise Harris Dawson is now officially on the record. But to be clear, he's also on the clock. Remember now, it is anticipated that construction activities will begin within the next weeks. We shall see. We have exercised our right to free speech, but there are other rights the black business community can exercise as well. This is a classic example of a public nuisance claim, if ever there was one. Again, we shall see. What I can tell you is that black business owners and Crenshaw community residents have been calling, emailing, and literally showing up in our lobby demanding more and asking how they can sign on to this effort. Put simply, after years of delay, the people have had enough. My big mama put it this way: once a task you have first begun, never finish until it is done. Be the labor great or small, do it well or not at all. Now, I need to put on my hard hat, go outside, and wait for these procrastination Crenshaw construction crews to show up. I'll let you know if and when they do. Trust and believe. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. As always, we welcome your feedback.
I'm speaking to the phone. Do I turn off the roadcaster mic?
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA. Talk 1580, download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. I want to begin with a brief editorial. When the rules bend for power, there's a moment in every fan's life when you realize sports were never just sports. This past week, that moment arrived at the World Cup, and it arrived on Air Force One's phone line. A red card, a one-game suspension, routine stuff, the kind of call referees make and players accept, win or lose. But when that player was American, and losing him meant losing an edge against Belgium, the President of the United States picked up the phone and called the head of FIFA himself, and FIFA blinked. For only 1 second in World Cup history, the first being a disputed 1962 call involving a Brazilian legend and a different head of state leaning on the refs. A suspension was lifted, not because the red card was wrong. FIFA never said that. The card stood, only the punishment disappeared. Here's the moral dilemma, plain and simple. We tell our kids that rules apply to everybody, that the scorecard doesn't care who you are or who you know. Then the most powerful man in the country makes one phone call and the rule book rewrites itself in real time. What lesson does that teach? not just to Belgium, not just to soccer fans, but to every young athlete watching, wondering if talent is what matters or proximity to power. Defenders say every president roots for the home team. Every leader wants their athletes to succeed. That's true. And there's nothing wrong with the president cheering from the stands, but cheering is not the same as calling the referee's boss. There's a line between patriotism and interference, and this crossed it. Not because the intent was sinister, but because the precedent is corrosive. If the rules only hold until someone important calls, they were never really rules at all. They were suggestions, waiting for the right phone number. That's a lesson in this country has to learn, and it's going to learn it the hard way, in arenas well beyond sports. And worth it's saying plainly on the radio on a Tuesday, integrity isn't measured by what you do when no one's watching. It's measured by what holds up when someone powerful asks you to look the other way. FIFA had a choice. So does every institution facing pressure from the top. This week on soccer's biggest stage, we got a clear answer about which way that skips the tail. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. In this hour, Bishop Joseph Tolton is our very special guest. He's the founder and president of Interconnected Justice, which was established in 2019. The strategic intent of the organization is to be a force uniting global racial justice movements in which the continent of Africa and its diaspora build on an ecosystem of self-defined, determined advocacy. The bishop's passion for connecting Black Lives Matter and the Pan-Africanism flows from his deep conviction that the global project of our lifetime is to dismantle white supremacy and to deconstruct patriarchy. Bishop Tolton believes this is a spiritual project that demands highly connected secular activism. Bishop Tolton, I know we just have a few seconds, but welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
It's so good to be with you, Brother Jesse. Blessings.
I am so glad that you're here. We have so much to cover and so much to talk about. More on KBLA Talk 1580. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show right here on KBLA Talk 1580. Our very special guest on Tenacious Tuesday is none other than Bishop Tolton. More when we come forward on KBLA.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Is reviewing life insurance on your to-do list? Now's the perfect time to add it. A friend recently told me that securing life insurance sooner rather than later can help you lock in lower rates for years to come. So I bumped this up on my list and got it done. I called SelectQuote and couldn't believe how easy and affordable life insurance is. I'm 40 and got a $500,000 policy for $16 a month. My husband's also 40 and his $500,000 policy was only $18 a month. Plus, with SelectQuote's same-day coverage, there was no medical exam required, and we were covered by the time we hung up. Knowing I have this checked off my list feels amazing, but the peace of mind knowing my family is protected feels even better.
Call SelectQuote at 1-800-729-7070. That's 1-800-729-7070. Or go to SelectQuote.com to get your free quote today. That's 1-800-729-7070. Details on example rate at SelectQuote.com.
Don't be anxious or confused about AI. Take control of your career when you get the skills to tackle real business problems and design specialized solutions. HR Dive reported that entry-level talent with applied AI credentials can receive up to a 25% salary boost. But where do you find training that you can trust? Future-proof your career and deliver more value with Humans Lead the Way AI. Their hybrid learning courses use practical definitions, real-world examples, and strategic insights to help you and your team understand AI with confidence. No magic, no hacks, no shortcuts. Just practical knowledge that helps you use AI more successfully. Don't wait. AI can never replace people who know how to use it well. Register for courses today at humansleadtheway.com. That's humansleadtheway.com.
As the poet laureate of Harlem, Langston Hughes, once said, I too sing America. I am the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes, but I laugh and eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow, I'll sit at the table when company comes. Nobody dare say to me, eat in the kitchen then. Besides, they'll see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. I too am America. KBLA Talk 1580 and the Inner City Youth Orchestra of Los Angeles invite you to attend the 18th season finale concert, I Too Sing America, honoring the 250th anniversary of the United States of America, this Sunday, July 12, 3 p.m. at the Walt Disney Concert Hall. Curated by conductor Charles Dickerson and performed by the largest orchestra of color in the nation, I Too Sing America promises to be a show you won't soon forget. This Sunday, July 12, 3 p.m. at the Walt Disney Concert Hall in downtown Los Angeles. Purchase tickets at icyola.org or from the Music Center box office at musiccenter.org.
I Too Sing America.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk of 1580. Bishop Tolton, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Blessings to you, dear brother Jesse.
Bishop, I think you're muted.
Am I muted? You're not able to hear me.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. One of the issues that I wanted to address in my editorial today was this question of moral consistency. Our young people were watching FIFA. They've been following the World Cup. In fact, soccer is a relatively new sport in the United States of America. It is an older sport in other countries around the world with some ancient rules for the way in which the sport is played. When the President of the United States from Air Force One made a call to the head of FIFA to if you will, unred card a player and allow the player to play in the sporting event, our children from elementary school through high school, our adults in college, and those sports fans of the game of soccer who watch on a global stage, where the rules are the same and the rules are consistent for all teams around the world. A sport essentially uncorrupted by the idea that all of the rules that are played in any country around the world will always be the same. Whether the call is the right call or whether the call is the wrong call, the calls are respected, and those calls that are challenged are part of a process. And once that process makes a determination and a judgment, the entire planet accepts the process. They accept the rules, even if the call were a bad call. Until Donald Trump intervened, which we hadn't seen in the sport, I believe in more than 6 decades, called the head of FIFA to have the nation's leading scorer for the United States reinstated after a red card. Every elementary school soccer player and their parents and their family members, every college soccer team, every Olympic and potential Olympian, every professional sports soccer player on earth saw the President of the United States use the power and influence of his office to change the rules of the game. I don't know what planet that's acceptable on, except since the presidency of Donald John Trump. It's not just about the sport. It's the consequences of the perception that America is prepared to win at all cost, even if we are not following the rules, so that we can celebrate as if we did follow the rules, hold the world to the standard of the rules that we as Americans do not have to play. That's one of the many lessons to be learned from what took place just the other night at FIFA. Of course, one of the great challenges of that dynamic is that we did not win. And so the world itself is now gloating, not just about the Belgium victory, it's also gloating about the reality that the United States, Bishop Tolton, had the power to impact the rules of the game. Bishop, a very, very difficult day for the American people and for the world on this question of moral authority. Bishop Joseph Tolton.
There is no question that this is a difficult day around that question. Brother Jesse, I've been thinking about my grandmother because she was famous for saying, God does not love ugly, and he's very little for beauty. And I remember as a kid really kind of wrestling with that statement, and not just the God does not love ugly part, but that he's very little for beauty. And what she was saying was that obviously God is not for ugly behavior, but he's not also for a lot of gloating, and he's not also for manipulating one's power or overexerting one's authority or moving unguided by a sense of ethics. But I think it's important that we go just a level deeper regarding what's really going on here, because this is a story also about democracy. This is also a story about the spirit energy of our president and the ways in which he is guided by an authoritarian ethos. We ask ourselves, are we governed by rules or relationships? We would like to think that we are governed by rules. And certainly in sports, there's one referee, there's 90 minutes, there's a certain amount of time, and we know that the rules apply equally to all. It is not about the referee having a particular preference or relationship with one of the teams. And when we think about a democracy is supposed to be governed by rules, right? And the rule of law versus relationships where we can cherry pick the ways in which we want to indict particular people or communities versus others because of what our particular preference is. So I do think that so much of this goes back to the spirit energy of Donald Trump and the way in which that spirit energy is really corroding our American understanding of being governed by the rule of law, being governed by a set of principles and ideals that are unchanging in terms of who they are applied to. And I think that we as Americans really need to take a very critical look at the ways in which the spirit energy of this particular president is really corroding not only our politics, but our cultural life as well.
Bishop, I think that's so well said. I think the other side of it, obviously, is that it's not just the rules of sport. We are now seeing it in the reflecting pool, a no-bid contract. We're seeing it in the way in which the Pentagon is conducting business through contracting. We're seeing it through the ways in which the President of the United States is trying to dictate the outcome of political elections by rigging the system. What is the message and the spirit energy that is flowing from the White House that essentially says the only moral code that we need to follow is that we win?
Well, that's absolutely right. It's important to be clear that authoritarians and dictators, they don't necessarily destroy institutions, but they make institutions all subject to one person. And that's why they oftentimes give the appearance of operating in a democratic system or frame. Like Putin will still talk about the fact that there are actually elections in Russia, because they oftentimes will embrace the trappings of democracy or the trappings of fairness. But what they do is they actually capture those systems. So this goes back to why Donald Trump wanted his name on the Kennedy Center, or why he wants the the public arch. It is because he needs his image and his personal sense of authority to be so ubiquitous that all institutions and all people actually become subject to him. This is why when you visit countries where the dictatorship is just off the rails, every hotel, restaurant, or store or venue where you enter, you will see an image of the dictator, because people need to know that every institution, every one of the seven mountains, as it were, has actually been captured by the dictator as opposed to destroyed by the dictator.
Bishop, you're a moral leader, and I'm reflecting in this moment whether or not this conversation would be different had we won. The world is reacting not only to the incidents of the president making the phone call, but it's reacting to the overwhelming way in which the Americans did lose as well. And it allows for us to have this conversation. But had America been successful in the outcome of the contest last night, I am fairly confident we would be having a very different conversation with the global community reacting to the idea that soccer itself as a sport is forever corrupted and that it is not recoverable. And that the consequences of that behavior for the American people all over the world are as astounding and profound as anything we've seen since Donald Trump was elected president.
Yeah, there's no question that on many levels, as much as we, of course, would have loved to have seen the American team go on and do well, there's something righteous about this loss, because if we had in fact won, there always would have been an asterisk next to this W. And that asterisk for time in memoriam would have spoken to the fact that the Americans cheated and that the Americans were led by a president who blatantly cheats, consistently lies, undermines his friends, is unloyal to anyone. And that, again, this is the modus operandi that now America is operating in. We are a global superpower. We have meddled in the affairs of other nations for many, many years. There's a reason why we have such economic domination. And so, of course, there is a lot of, in many cases, negative energy toward America because of how we've operated. This a win last night would only have kind of been the icing on the cake for really delivering a death nail in the coffin that suggests that this is really who America is. They cheat, they undermine, they leverage their strength in the faith of other people's weakness. They play unfairly, and that they're the ultimate dominionists. So on many levels, having lost gives us an opportunity to perhaps resurrect our image in this particular space, and hopefully that would bleed over into the resurrection of our image beyond just soccer, but more substantively as being a fair player on the global stage that is interested in equity.
You know, I think we lost that reputation during the ways in which the president of the United States has imposed tariffs to the rest of the world as bargaining chips for mineral rights, as bargaining chips for the way in which governments relate to Donald Trump's personal businesses and to his family, and the way in which he is treated. Even the FIFA award that was the honorary peace prize that was named after Donald Trump, presented by the FIFA president. Even the $400 million aircraft given to the United States by the Qatari government, something unprecedented. And that Donald Trump, when he leaves office, gets to leave with the plane and put it in his personal presidential library and or museum. The ways in which these rules are being changed is essentially saying that it's okay to put weights in fish in bass fishing. It's okay for professional athletes to bet on themselves or to miss free throws. And there are no consequences for doing that when they could make free throws. It's okay for a quarterback to throw the game if the players that are behind the quarterback are betting in Vegas or in any of the markets on the outcome of a contest. It's okay to cheat. It's okay to be dishonest. It's okay to speak in half-truths. It's okay to be deceptive. It's okay to be misleading. If you have the power, if you have the gold, you have the right to rule. I would just add this point. When I ran for Congress in 1995, I always said, and I say it again when I ran for Congress in 2025, I would rather lose right than win wrong. I just don't want to be known for winning wrong. I didn't reach into the research, into the bag of tricks and talk about my political opponents and the consequences that some of the things they found out about me and I found out about them could have been destructive, not just to the campaign or to their campaigns, but to their lives. I'm not in it for that. I'm in it for the preservation of democracy and the expansion of our rights. I would rather lose right than win wrong. That is a different kind of energy that has to emanate from the very top of our country, from the top leadership. It is the signal to Congress. It is the signal to the United States Senate. It is the signal to the court that there is a moral plumb line in the nation that we will not cross. I can't think of a more important voice to be having this conversation with on Tenacious Tuesday than that of Bishop Joseph Tolton. Bishop Tolton, as an LGBT global faith leader, continues to serve as the Bishop of the Global Ministries for the Fellowship of Affirming Ministries. In this capacity, he designs and manages TFAM's justice ministries and collaborations outside of the United States with the focus on East Africa policy. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Our very special guest is Bishop Joseph Tolton. More when we come forward on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Northwest Indiana authorities are investigating a deadly shooting that claimed the life of 10-year-old Montana Weathers of Chicago. Police say the child was killed early Sunday when someone opened fire from a vehicle in Gary. Crime victims advocate Andrew Holmes.
A relative pushed the little 10-year-old out of the way, not knowing that he had been struck by gunfire.
A 50-year-old man was also wounded and remains hospitalized. Chicago police are investigating a mass shooting on the city's west side that left 7 people injured. Community leaders say hundreds had gathered before gunfire erupted, while city officials are now looking at ways to hold organizers of large, unsanctioned events accountable when violence breaks out. And private prison company CoreCivic is selling 2 Southern California detention centers to the federal government in a $1.5 billion deal. The sale supports ICE's growing detention network, though CoreCivic is expected to continue operating the facilities. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Think It Up is an initiative to activate student-powered, teacher-led learning projects. Students and teachers, how can you spark great learning experiences in your classrooms today? Join at thinkitup.org.
Is this the time? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
For many soccer fans around the world, justice was served Monday night in the World Cup. Belgium eliminated the U.S. men's soccer team with a dominant 4-1 win that could be called, in the words of James Brown, the big payback. World Cup fans and opposing teams were upset with the decision by FIFA President Gianni Infantino to overturn the red card 1-game suspension for U.S. leading scorer Folarin Balogun. Balogun was not supposed to play Monday night. Trump was criticized for asking his good friend Infantino to review Balogun's suspension. When Infantino bowed down to Trump, both men became public enemy number 1 and number 2 for soccer fans around the world. Balogun was a non-factor in the lopsided loss, no goals or assists. This was the 4th straight World Cup the U.S. failed to advance to the quarterfinals. A lot of folks are delighted that the streak continued. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Where the overlooked become unmissable, this is KBLA Talk 1580. In a world full of noise, one station keeps it real. KBLA Talk 1580, where the conversation goes deeper, the voices sound like yours, and the issues that matter most to our community take center stage. Progressive, powerful, unapologetically us. Whether you're driving through the city or tuning in from your home or office, join the public square. KBLA Talk 1580. your home for talk that enlightens, encourages, and empowers. Listen live on our free KBLA 1580 app, on our website at KBLA1580.com, or on your radio dial at 1580 AM.
Unapologetically progressive.
This November, you'll decide who leads California. So shouldn't you hear directly from the people asking for your vote? Join us for California Voices, a political town hall and ballot forum, Saturday, October 3rd, 2026. Meet candidates running for governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, and other major statewide and local offices, including mayor of Los Angeles, city attorney, and LA County sheriff. Get clear, nonpartisan breakdowns of the propositions on your November ballot, both sides, no spin. And ask your questions directly, in real conversation, face to face. California Voices is brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and the Empowerment Congress, giving you the information you need before you vote. Mark your calendar, Saturday, October 3rd, 2026, California Voices. Follow KBLA 1580 for details and download the KBLA 1580 app. Your vote, your voice. Be there.
Please be advised. You may want to stop eating the following foods immediately: broccoli, kale, bean sprouts, blueberries, quinoa, spinach.
Wait, what? I thought those were good for me.
Turns out not for everyone, because what's healthy for one person can cause inflammation for another. And the only way to really know what your body needs is to listen to it.
Listen how?
That's where Viome comes in. Viome is a simple at-home gut health test that looks at your body's real-time biology using RNA to understand what's happening inside you right now. When your results come in, you'll learn exactly which foods to eat, which to avoid, and which supplements are right for you, all based on the world's largest RNA-based human biology database and thousands of clinical research studies. And many people who use Viome report more energy, better digestion, and a better mood within months. So stop guessing. Start knowing. Learn more at Viome.com/gut. V as in Victor, IOME.com/GUT. And use coupon code GUTHEALTH50 to save $50 off your purchase. Viome. Trust your gut.
Indeed presents hires you can't afford to get wrong, like public works supervisor.
Hey, this waterman is under a ton of pressure. Did you ever fix it?
Yeah, 3 layers of duct tape. Wait, should I have added a 4th layer?
This is a job for sponsored jobs.
This is what happens when you don't sponsor your job on Indeed. Next time, get matched with quality candidates with Indeed sponsored jobs. Visit Indeed.com/hire now and sponsor your job today.
See website for details. MyFastCash.com is not a lender and does not make credit decisions. Must be 18 years old. Not available in all states.
The mechanic called. The repair's going to be $750.
Oh, we got rent and the car payment on top of groceries, gas, and other bills. We don't have an extra $750 right now.
We could try MyFastCash.com. When short on expenses, you can go to MyFastCash.com and can get money as soon as the next day.
MyFastCash.com.
Yes, they can connect you to one of the largest lender networks, and you can get a loan even with bad credit. We could be approved for up to $5,000 fast.
$5,000? That must be a long process.
Nope, approval can happen in just a few minutes right from your phone, and funds could hit our account by tomorrow.
If you have a regular source of income and a bank account, you could be approved for up to $5,000, even with bad credit history. And the cash can hit your bank account the next day.
Honey, I'm going to MyFastCash.com right now.
Thank goodness.
If you need extra cash, go to MyFastCash.com. That's MyFastCash.com. MyFastCash.com.
Loan availability, approval, and funding times vary. Terms apply.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Quality, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. In this hour, Bishop Joseph William Tolton, founder and president of Interconnected Justice, is with us as our very special guest. Bishop, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Blessings, dear Reverend. Blessings, dear brother.
Bishop, let me ask you a question before I get to our pivot to our next point. Share with us how we can support your ministry and how we can get in touch with you.
Oh, that's gracious. At www.icjustice.org. IC Justice, of course, is short for Interconnected Justice. Please log on. Please donate. Please become a member. Please become involved. We are very focused on connecting progressive leaders from the African continent with their counterparts across the diaspora that we might advocate for global justice on the global stage.
Bishop, on this past July 4th, the nation commemorated, if you will, its 250th anniversary. And aside from the parades and the fireworks and the food and some of the charades that we've seen to celebrate the 250th anniversary, there is one image that emerges at this hour that quite possibly could be the most defining image of July 4th since the Civil Rights Movement, or since Frederick of July 4th, some 160 or so years ago. I'm wondering, Bishop Tolton, your thoughts of that young lady and her surroundings on the 250th anniversary of the nation's birth.
It obviously was very difficult to see the image. It was very difficult to believe that this is an image from our modern day time. This young lady was scared and frightened. I don't know if she fully understood exactly who was surrounding her, but it is very clear from the look on her face that she realized that these were people that did not have her best interests at heart, and that she was fully surrounded by them. Now, obviously, they on purpose entered a public a mode of transportation, one that is widely used by Washingtonians, to make a clear statement that they were owning this public arena. They were not afraid to be in a public space and to be shown and to really take up space, because now their presence in the world has been on many levels justified by President Trump. It should be noted by your audience that as of now, as far as I understand, the president has not condemned this march. And one of the members of his cabinet, who was interviewed by CNN, could not find the language to state very clearly that he would say to the president that this needs to be condemned. But I think it's important that we do have this unfortunate image, because it really embodies exactly the state of America, where we are as Black people in this country, and the ways in which our lives are under such threat, and where such hostility toward us has now become normalized again. It's a very troubling and piercing image, but one that is profound and incredibly important, as an image can say what 1,000 words cannot.
Bishop, I have been struggling with so many different interpretations of what I think we all witnessed by looking at the image and just studying it. I mean, there must be 1,000 sermons that could be preached this Sunday just by simply looking at this picture and studying it. There is an affirmation of white men in this image, and there is a subjugation and a deaffirmation, if you will, of Black women in this image. Something that I hadn't reflected upon until we just decided to discuss it today and to talk about it among the other interpretations that exist from day one, including the firing of the generals, including the firing of women at the Pentagon by Pete Hegseth and by the administration, the 300,000 Black women who lost their jobs at the federal government in the first couple of weeks of the Trump administration. And now we see the elevation of white men affirming their so-called First Amendment rights, no matter who it intimidates. And we see, of course, the kind of Rosa Parks image of this sister sitting in the context of this hostility, having to define in her own way what the nation's independence truly means. Bishop, I may be wrong, but do you see this in the image as well?
Oh, there's no question about it. Unfortunately, we have to go back to the history of the founding of this nation. On many levels, this nation was founded as a white Protestant republic. And the Declaration of Independence, which suggests that all people are created equal has always been on a collision course with that image. And we know that, of course, we never, particularly in 1776, were anywhere close to living up to these words, because slavery was protected, native nations were displaced, women were excluded from political life, and property qualifications limited political participation. So from the very beginning of the Republic, we have been struggling with this tension between the ideal of what America can be, kind of almost a nation that embodies a political Pentecost, where we're able to all speak in tongues in different languages, but able to come to one conclusion. Is that the America that we're going to live into, that Eddie Glaude talks about? Or are we going to be a nation that is captured by this idea of a hierarchy, at which at the top, as you just well articulated, of course, sit white men who are in a position that is uncontested. But I think what the image lifts up is that these are white men who are struggling with the fact that their superior position and their supremacy has been historically contested. But make no mistake about it, we were founded as a white Protestant republic, and for many years we've been struggling with how we can live up to the ideal of America. And now that we're moving toward demographic changes, where the country is going to be a minority majority country, the race is on for figuring out and determining ways to manipulate and game the system politically and economically, creating a very particular social outcome where that hierarchy is maintained under the canopy of minority rule.
You know, Bishop, I have in my hand, show you how great minds think alike, I have Democracy in Black, How Race Still Enslaves the American Soul by Eddie S. Glaude right here in my hand. But I also have America, USA, How Race Shadows the Nation's Anniversaries, Eddie S. Glaude Jr. as well. I keep these books very close to me because they are so pertinent for this hour. You know, I do want to talk about this when we come forward, but I want to at least tease our audience on the question. When you think about Gettysburg, July 1st through July 3rd, 1863, there really was a race for the outcome of that battle to determine who gets to define July 4th. Now, Abraham Lincoln would come back in November of that year, after the battle had been won by the Union, and define it with the Gettysburg Address 77 years ago. Our fathers brought forth on this nation and how it was conceived. Lincoln got to define the battle at Gettysburg. And this image is pertinent to that very definition. But then on the other hand, when we reflect upon what that Gettysburg could have become and who could have defined July 4th, what could have happened. And in fact, we may be seeing more of what could have happened in the current administration. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. More with Bishop Tolton on Tenacious Tuesday. Barbara Arnwine will be up next at the top of the hour. More when we come forward on KBLA.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. At the heart of the Al Wooten Center's mission for good citizenship and academic excellence is a desire to ensure that every student avoids the kind of lifestyle and overcomes the kinds of challenges that led to the murder of Al Wooten Jr. In 1990, founder Myrtle Fay Rumpf opened the center in honor of her son's life. In 2026, they are serving more than 300 students in grades 3 through 12 annually online and on site at their youth center and other sites in the South LA area. The Al Wooten Jr. Youth Center takes a neighborhood approach to the revitalization and empowerment of a community in crisis. The Wooten Center provides free after-school and summer programs to help students in grades 3 through 12 attain grade-level proficiency and promotion, high school graduation, and college and career access and success. The Al Wooten Center focuses on academics, STEM, the arts, and so much more. Join them for an enriching experience that sparks creativity and nurtures young minds. Tap in at WootenCenter.org. That's WootenCenter.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Going to a World Cup match in LA this summer? Ditch the parking stress and ride Metro. With direct service from across LA County, it's the easy way to get there for just $1.75 each way.
Listen up, KBLA delegation. We have something you need to hear. Right now, you may qualify for low-cost home internet. And we're not talking about a catch. This is real. Many internet service providers offer low-cost internet plans if anyone in your household is enrolled in CalFresh, Medi-Cal, SSI, or is income eligible. There are a lot of families in our community who deserve to be connected. Here's all you do. Call 844-461-7893. That's the Get Connected call center. Real people ready to help you enroll today. Or go online to internetforallnow.org to find a provider near you. You may also qualify for a low-cost computer through Human IT. Connectivity is not a luxury. In 2026, it's a necessity. And you deserve access just like everybody else. Call 844-461-7893. That's 844-461-7893. KBLA's got you. If you missed any of this, you can always go to our website at KBLA1580.com. Brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 in partnership with the California Emerging Technology Fund, CETF.
You deserve a treat, a $10 bill credit treat. If you get an LADWP paper bill but go online to pay it, stop! Break up with your mailbox. It's time to go paperless. With paperless billing, bill reminders come straight to your inbox. You can access 7 years of past bills in your online account, and you don't have to deal with paper clutter piling up. It's a win for you, your time, and the environment. $10 bill credit for new LADWP paperless billing signups. LADWP.com/paperless.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Created with a share of the 1984 Olympic Games surplus, LA 84 began operations in 1985 as a grant-making and educational foundation. Today, the LA 84 Foundation supports hundreds of nonprofit youth sports organizations throughout Southern California annually, trains coaches, commissions research, convenes conferences, and maintains the world's premier Olympic and sports library collection. They are transforming lives and communities through the power of youth sports. To find out about youth sports programs for yourself or your child, and to get information about the grants and support they offer to schools and nonprofits, or if you want to make a donation, please visit la84.org. That's la84.org. Or you can call them at 323-730-4600. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Folly drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. It's Tenacious Tuesday. Our regular guest and contributor, Bishop Joseph William Tolton, founder and president of Interconnected Justice, which was established in 2019 as our guest. Bishop, welcome forward to the show once again.
Blessings to you, my dear brother.
Bishop, I'm wondering, what should we make of this moment? I'm wondering if the perception by the world now of America is one of not just a president who is wayward, but the idea that Americans want to win at all costs. That the standard has now changed, that 2.5 more years of Donald Trump's administration, the new normal that will emerge may indeed cloud our ability to engage in the kind of moral authority and moral leadership in the world necessary to build a beloved community. Bishop, how should we see this moment?
I actually think that Americans don't understand that the world has probably had a more authentic understanding of who America is than Americans. And what I mean by that is that the world has had to put up with America's military meddling, with its political manipulation, with its economic extraction for many, many, many years. And so, all over the world, people get that that's America. I think that there was a belief that the country was kind of evolving, and Obama spoke to a pivot where the country was evolving not only in terms of where we were around racial justice, but I think that where we were around really kind of changing who we were as a people because of the spirit that he embodied. I think the pivot back to Trump or the pivot to Trump was thought of as, well, perhaps this is an aberration. But now I think the rest of the world understands this. Trump is America's id. This is really who America is. This is the ugly underside of empire. And Trump embodies that. And I think the rest of the world has actually had a better understanding of who we truly are than actually we have for many years.
Bishop, are you suggesting that the soul searching that's taking place isn't around the globe? The world knows who we are, but the soul searching that we are witnessing under this leadership is something that we, and probably we as Americans alone, are actually struggling with, because we can't imagine an America treating people, treating rules, treating fairness, treating justice the way it's occurring in this hour?
Brother Jesse, that is absolutely correct. There is a breaking in the veil where we are having to come to terms with the truth of the fact that we shut down USAID and that there are hundreds of thousands of children around the world who will die or starve because we let the world's first trillionaire make that decision. There is no doubt that people around the world certainly understand that, and that we now are coming to embrace that. And I believe, and hopefully we'll get to talk about this when I'm with you again, that the emergence of the democratic socialist movement, that is the story of America reckoning with itself. That is the story of America realizing, wait a second, we actually are under a capitalist system where the distribution of wealth is incredibly unfair and where the system really is rigged. I believe that what's happening with democratic socialists is about Americans waking up and realizing something fundamental about our system has got to change. And now we have a permission structure to actually be wildly imaginative about that change, because we've seen how the right has been so radically and dangerously imaginative about how they want to see a regressive movement in this country take us back to an economics of the Gilded Age and a social time before Reconstruction.
Bishop, I can't wait to have that conversation. I met Michael Harrington, the late Michael Harrington, the founders of DSA, in 1984. He was a supporter of Jesse Jackson for president. Of course, you know Hunter Pitts, Jack Odell, worked with Martin Luther King Jr. and worked with my father for more than 4 decades. J. Edgar Hoover called Jack Odell one of the most dangerous men in America by calling him a communist. Jack Odell was not that. He believed in a fair distribution of economic resources. He wasn't necessarily God-fearing, so he did struggle with the idea of the divine and a force beyond human nature. But beyond that, Jack was actually very much engaged in healthcare for all and housing for all and decent, safe, and affordable housing for all of the American people. So whatever we're trying to do with the housing bill in Congress, Jack Odell at that time was 44 decades ahead of his time in arguing for a housing policy and a housing plan. Doc, I want to ask you for your word of hope, but just in this moment, can you center your word of hope also around women who quietly emerge? This sister sitting alone. We don't know her name. We don't even know if she understood her surroundings. And I hope that whatever comment she ultimately makes, if she makes one at all, that she leaves our imagination to right where it is. The last thing I'd like her to say is something like, I wasn't paying attention. I want her to leave it right where it is so that we can reflect. Bishop, on behalf of our women.
Absolutely. I think it's so important for us to be thoughtful about the movements over time in this country that have wrestled with this issue of fairness and what matters and who matters. And this goes back to the early 20th century socialism movement that was trying to answer these questions. I don't know how well they answered them, but they certainly were trying to do so. And then, of course, we know the women's suffrage movement in its own right was trying to answer this question from the perspective of the inclusion of women. And then we've seen movements from the civil rights movement to even the rhetoric of John Edwards as he was speaking to America. So this is a journey that we have been on for many years, and one that we're at a very pivotal moment regarding its future. And I do believe that women are going to be at the forefront of determining the type of America that we want to live in moving forward, because it's impossible to separate the spirit of misogyny and the spirit of economic dominance that has governed this nation for so many years. And in order to kind of break through that, it's definitely going to take the spirit of the feminine, not just women, but the spirit of the feminine to break that yoke. And as the scripture says, only the anointing or the oil of God can break the yoke, Brother Jesse.
Bishop Joseph William Tolton, he is a bad man. He's a bad man. Looking forward to our next conversation, breakdown. One of the last chapters of Martin Luther King Jr.'s book, Strength to Love, was how the Christian should view communism. Bishop Tolton and I are going to deal with Democratic Socialists of America and the movement towards a social responsibility economically and the sharing of opportunities for all Americans, regardless of their race, sex, class, or sexual orientation, when we come forward and when we have Bishop Tolton on our show again. Bishop, love you very much, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Blessings. Love you too, my brother.
Look forward to seeing you soon. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Tenacious Tuesday. Barbara Arnwine is up next right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Northwest Indiana authorities are investigating a deadly shooting that claimed the life of 10-year-old Montana Weathers of Chicago. Police say the child was killed early Sunday when someone opened fire from a vehicle in Gary. Crime victims advocate Andrew Holmes.
A relative pushed the little 10-year-old out of the way, not knowing that he had been struck by gunfire.
A 50-year-old man was also wounded and remains hospitalized. Chicago police are investigating a mass shooting on the city's west side that left 7 people injured. Community leaders say hundreds had gathered before gunfire erupted, while city officials are now looking at ways to hold organizers of large, unsanctioned events accountable when violence breaks out. And private prison company CoreCivic is selling 2 Southern California detention centers to the federal government in a $1.5 billion deal. The sale supports ICE's growing detention network, though CoreCivic is expected to continue operating the facilities. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Think It Up is an initiative to activate student-powered, teacher-led learning projects. Students and teachers, how can you spark great learning experiences in your classrooms today? Join at thinkitup.org.
Is this the time? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
For many soccer fans around the world, justice was served Monday night in the World Cup. Belgium eliminated the U.S. men's soccer team with a dominant 4-1 win that could be called, in the words of James Brown, the big payback. World Cup fans and opposing teams were upset with the decision by FIFA President Gianni Infantino to overturn the red card 1-game suspension for U.S. leading scorer Folarin Balogun. Balogun was not supposed to play Monday night. Trump was criticized for asking his good friend Infantino to review Balogun's suspension. When Infantino bowed down to Trump, both men became public enemy number 1 and number 2 for soccer fans around the world. Balogun was a non-factor in the lopsided loss, no goals or assists. This was the 4th straight World Cup the U.S. failed to advance to the quarterfinals. A lot of folks are delighted that the streak continued. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
All I need is one mic.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. The headline in the newspaper read, Black leaders join forces to bring Destination Crenshaw toward the finish line. Now, beyond the headline phraseology of toward the finish line, if you actually read the article, it said that Black-owned contractors are now being mobilized, major new financing is being secured, and it is anticipated that construction activities will begin within the next weeks. That statement has more hedges than a Beverly Hills mansion, more hedges than a nervous groom's wedding vows written by a divorce lawyer. But it's funny how progress starts moving once somebody turns on a microphone. 4 weeks of KBLA editorials and suddenly everyone has found their hard hats. It's amazing what happens when the community starts asking questions out loud, and this is why Black media matters. We don't need more empty promises. We need a finished project. Political accountability to Black fellow citizens means that elected officials and institutions must answer for their actions or inaction in ways that are real, measurable, and consequential when they fail to follow through. I suppose the good news here is that LA City Council President and 8th District Representative Marquise Harris Dawson is now officially on the record. But to be clear, he's also on the clock. Remember now, it is anticipated that construction activities will begin within the next weeks. We shall see. We have exercised our right to free speech, but there are other rights the Black business community can exercise as well. This is a classic example of a public nuisance claim if ever there was one. Again, we shall see. What I can tell you is that Black business owners and Crenshaw community residents have been calling, emailing, and literally showing up in our lobby demanding more and asking how they can sign on to this effort. Put simply, after years of delay, the people have had enough. My big mama put it this way: once a task you have first begun, never finish until it is done. Be the labor great or small, do it well or not at all. Now, I need to put on my hard hat, go outside, and wait for these procrastination Crenshaw construction crews to show up. I'll let you know if and when they do. Trust and believe. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. As always, we welcome your feedback.
Junior Show. Oh, 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 the Jesse Jackson Junior Show. Oh, the Jesse Jackson Junior Show. Oh, the Jesse Jackson Junior Show. Oh. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA. Talk 1580, download the app.
Picture it. A young Black woman sitting quietly on the Washington Metro, doing nothing more than commuting. Around her, filling the train car, dozens of masked men in matching uniforms, khaki pants, navy shirts, white cloth covering their faces. Patriot Front, a white nationalist group whose own literature calls for a white ethno-state, whose founder has bragged about recruiting hundreds of members nationwide. That wasn't a scene from 1926, though it looks like one. It happened on July 4th, 2026, 3 days ago, the 250th birthday of the United States of America. I want you to sit with that image for a moment, because it says more about where we are as a country than any firework display, any parade, any speech from any podium. Here's the irony, and it's a bitter one. On the very day we were told to celebrate 2.5 centuries of American freedom, hundreds of men marched to the nation's capital carrying Confederate flags, the flag of a rebellion fought to preserve slavery, right alongside American flags, some of them flown upside down. That's not patriotism. That's a contradiction wearing a costume. And while that march was happening, the White House was directing Americans towards a newly restored statue in Freedom Plaza, a monument to a founding father named Caesar Rodney. celebrated for riding 80 miles through a storm to cast the deciding vote for independence, a genuine act of courage. But Rodney was also a man who owned hundreds of Negro human beings on a plantation of nearly 900 acres. That statue was removed from public display in 2020 during the reckoning after George Floyd's murder. This year, it was put back, presented as a triumph of the American spirit, in the president's own words, timed deliberately for the anniversary. So on one side of town, we were asked to honor a slaveholder as a symbol of liberty, and a few metro stops away, a black woman is boxed in by white men whose ideology says people who look like her don't belong in their vision of America at all. This is not coincidence of timing. This is a whole story of this country in a single afternoon, the promise and the betrayal of that promise standing on the same subway platform. Now, to be fair, I want to be fair here. Patriot Front's march was legally protected speech. Even some Republican officials moved quickly to distance themselves from the group once the photos went viral, and no one in elective office has stood up to praise Patriot Front by name. The Constitution protects ugly speech along with popular speech, and that's a principle worth defending even when it costs us something. I'm not asking you to think about the government and how it should have stopped the march. I'm asking you to
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Is reviewing life insurance on your to-do list? Now's the perfect time to add it. A friend recently told me that securing life insurance sooner rather than later can help you lock in lower rates for years to come. So I bumped this up on my list and got it done. I called SelectQuote and couldn't believe how easy and affordable life insurance is. I'm 40 and got a $500,000 policy for $16 a month. My husband's also 40 and his $500,000 policy was only $18 a month. Plus, with SelectQuote's same-day coverage, there was no medical exam required, and we were covered by the time we hung up. Knowing I have this checked off my list feels amazing, but the peace of mind knowing my family is protected feels even better.
Call SelectQuote at 1-800-729-7070. That's 1-800-729-7070. Or go to SelectQuote.com to get your free quote today. That's 1-800-729-7070. Details on example rate at SelectQuote.com.
Don't be anxious or confused about AI. Take control of your career when you get the skills to tackle real business problems and design specialized solutions. HR Dive reported that entry-level talent with applied AI credentials can receive up to a 25% salary boost. But where do you find training that you can trust? Future-proof your career and deliver more value with Humans Lead the Way AI. Their hybrid learning courses use practical definitions, real-world examples, and strategic insights to help you and your team understand AI with confidence. No magic, no hacks, no shortcuts. Just practical knowledge that helps you use AI more successfully. Don't wait. AI can never replace people who know how to use it well. Register for courses today at humansleadtheway.com. That's humansleadtheway.com.
This November, you'll decide who leads California. So shouldn't you hear directly from the people asking for your vote? Join us for California Voices, a political town hall and ballot forum, Saturday, October 3rd, 2026. Meet candidates running for governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, and other major statewide and local offices, including Mayor of Los Angeles, city attorney, and LA County Sheriff. Get clear, nonpartisan breakdowns of the propositions on your November ballot, both sides, no spin. And ask your questions directly, in real conversation, face to face. California Voices is brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and the Empowerment Congress, giving you the information you need before you vote. Mark your calendar, Saturday, October 3rd, 2026, California Voices. Follow KBLA 1580 for details and download the KBLA 1580 app. Your vote, your voice. Be there.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Folly drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the beat.
For the Greenway, yes.
Come on and talk with me.
Could you please?
Come on and listen to the beat.
Okay, because they said that could work. They said that probably could work. That it wouldn't be, great, but it could work. Okay.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome
All right.
forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580.
Fill in the blanks for us.
Because
Okay.
I want to finish this point.
Okay.
Here's the deeper contradiction.
Thank you, Mark.
Declaration of Independence, the document we spent all weekend celebrating, opens with the words, "All men are created equal." 250 years later, we're still asking whether this country means that. Still watching a Black woman surrounded on public transportation by men who would tell her without apology that she doesn't count. I don't say any of this to spoil anyone's July 4th. I say it because 250 years is exactly the moment to ask the hard question honestly. Has America kept its promise, or has it simply gotten better at making the broken promises look beautiful from a distance? That photograph, a lone woman, boxed in, silent, dignified, will likely be remembered longer than any fireworks show from this weekend because it didn't need a caption. It told the truth about the country without saying a word. Our job on this 250th anniversary, and it's not just July 4th, it's all year long, isn't to look away from that truth. It's to decide out loud which America we actually intend to build for the next 250 years. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Barbara, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Barbara, I'm so glad that you are here. I can't think of a more appropriate voice than your voice on this question of how the 250th anniversary was celebrated and the image that has emerged that speaks so much without saying anything about the truth that you've been standing for and articulating. Barbara Arnwine, take your time.
We're having a mind meld today because this is what I wanted to talk about also. This image of this poor sister, this poor Black woman who goes to take a train and is surrounded by part of the 400 white masked men in Nazi, semi-Nazi uniforms surrounding her. And her look of utter dismay is everything. And it's fascinating to me that people have tried to justify this picture. And first of all, what they tried to do, everybody, is to discredit it and to say it's AI. Have you heard this one?
I have.
And people, Mr. Chain, I think his name is Cherney, who took the picture, is a known photographer. His mom is a known journalist. She was one of the first people to post it publicly. This is not AI. This is a real powerful, amazing photographer who happened to catch the moment. And that's what so many great stories are about. The flag, when the picture from Boston where the African-American lawyer who just happened to be walking in the plaza is attacked by this mob with the American flag.
I remember that picture. They're actually sticking the tip of the flag while he's wearing a three-piece suit.
Thank you. And that wasn't staged, people. There was no AI back then. So it's amazing how people want to go to denial and some kind of plot to admit the truth that we live in a country where 400 white men would take the July 4th holiday to come to Washington, D.C. to wear Nazi-looking uniforms, masking their face, big goggles on their eyes, wearing these hats and these little, crazy flag insignias, showing off in front of the Union Station, where that's where the trains all go, people, and that's where they leave from, in Washington, D.C., and showing off their military precision to let you know that they've been training. Their pretend gunshots, all these things that they wanted us to know that they're preparing for war. They wanted us to know.
Barbara, these white men in these uniforms, they came to Washington, D.C. to make a statement.
Oh, yes.
They came to be the story on July 4th. They came to be the story.
Correct. That's correct.
And the story took a turn. The story took a turn with a nameless, faceless sister, right, on the Metro, and gave them a story they couldn't possibly imagine.
There are so many hundreds of these pictures all over the DC, because remember, DC folks still has a lot of Black folks, and there are so many pictures of Black men and women being surrounded by these people on the train platforms and at the turnstiles.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Barbara, are you there? I think you're muted, Barbara. One of the great challenges is, Barbara, you said that there are hundreds of these pictures all over Washington, D.C. Barbara? Barbara, you've muted yourself. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Barbara says that all over Washington, D.C., if you think about it, every Metro stop from DuPont Circle to Southeast to Northeast to Southwest D.C., Metro has an amazing, all the way to the airport, Dulles Airport, an amazing network of trains that function underneath the nation's capital. And African Americans came into contact with these particular individuals. Let's just call it a white supremacist terrorist organization that was designed to intimidate, showed up in great numbers for our Independence Day celebration. And so the sister on the Metro train is not the only person who's had this experience with this group in Washington, D.C. It was designed and meant to instill fear in the hearts of the people of our nation's capital and in our country. They came to Washington and they meant to be the story that white supremacy was on the rise, that the government was going to do nothing about it. And then this, again, nameless person, this sister, this beautiful Black woman, commuting, minding her own business, is riding on the train, and she steps immediately into the history of the 250-year celebration of the United States of America. And I shared with you on this program, from the very inception of our arrival on these shores, the history of the date and the significance of July 4th, and how it is either we began months ago, it is either a celebration or a commemoration. It is either 1 foot in or 1 foot out. It is either an interpretation that builds a more perfect union, or it is an interpretation that builds a more perfect states' rights. We've talked about it right here on this program for weeks. The first 157 from 1619 all the way to July 4th. 157 July 4ths, but from the perspective of the slave, just another day. Then the next 87 July 4ths. How do we know 87 July 4ths? Because Abraham Lincoln says 77 years ago, from July 4th, our founding fathers set forth on this nation, on this continent. He begins the speech. That's 157 plus 87. And then he said, from this tragic event here on this battlefield, with neither our ability to add or detract the price that these men have paid on this battlefield, July 4th is going to be different going forward. And then from July 4th, 1863, with a new definition of Gettysburg delivered by Abraham Lincoln in November of that year, every July 4th has taken on a different iteration, including but not limited to the July 4th that John F. Kennedy was president, the July 4ths that Lyndon Johnson was president, the July 4ths that Richard Nixon was president and Ford was president, and the successors all the way up to Barack Obama and ultimately to Joe Biden and ultimately to Donald Trump. Every July 4th is different, except what makes this July 4th different is the image and the permanent image, not of bombs bursting in air or who sang the Star-Spangled Banner better than Whitney Houston or sang it better than Teddy Pendergrass or anyone else who's ever performed for the holiday. The image of a sister surrounded by white supremacists on a metro station in Washington, D.C. is the defining moment of the holiday. Because every step along this process, the Negro has been present. And so that's what's taking place around our country and around our world. There's some other breaking news that we should also be aware of at this hour. The United States and Iran are escalating tensions in the U.S. They revoked a waiver allowing Iran to sell its oil. This Iranian attacks the three takers in the Strait of Hormuz, and therefore Iran is now in violation, according to Donald Trump, and the peace talks have once again broken down. I was just before the show began paying very close attention to a Manhattan building that I think is 37 stories. I think on the 27th floor, maybe the 21st floor. Anyway, the girders and the infrastructure literally have begun cracking and crumbling, causing not only mass evacuations in that building, but mass evacuations in several buildings in Midtown Manhattan because of fear of imminent collapse, I read, in New York City. And so we are certainly praying for the engineers and for the people and law enforcement in the city of New York, and for people who might be in and around where this structure is apparently compromised and weaker. And that too speaks volumes, by the way, about the role of the federal government in housing in the United States. When you think about the thousands of buildings in the city of New York alone, and even the housing and building standards that we have in Los Angeles, California, where you cannot build a building over a certain height because of the earthquake standards and the shifting foundation in the state of California. And so in the city of New York, they too have standards. It seems increasingly that every time they build a building, they try to reach the sky with the thing. But what has turned out in this particular case is the infrastructure for some of these buildings are crumbling. And not only are local officials responsible for maintaining those buildings, but the role of the federal government in providing resources for local government officials is a factor in sustainable housing and the security of the American people. Barbara, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
I am glad to be back. My deepest apologies for everything. As you know, next week is John Lewis Good Trouble Lives On. And
yes,
we are working right now with the city of Atlanta on our flagship event. And that was one of those emergency calls I had to take unfortunately. And my prayers, there will be no more of those for this show. They're aware I'm on the show and they know that I need to be present. But I do want to go back to the issue of all of the Patriotic Front people. And I want to query a question to everybody. What is the difference between free speech and racial intimidation? What's the difference?
Mm.
What Burgum, Secretary, I believe, of Interior, said that this was free speech, but it had a purpose, and the purpose was racial intimidation.
Absolutely.
That's what we got to talk about. That it had a purpose. Now, not all free speech, not everything, not all speech is protected, right? You can't run around and say legally that you can't yell a fire in a crowded theater. You can't, as you see this whole charges against Comey, people can't run around and say, I'm going to do something to the president. There's all kinds of limitations on speech. The United States is one of the few countries that does not put limitations and prohibitions on racial hatred based speech. Folks, yes, you're listening to me. France, Italy, Germany, all these countries that you respect as free republics have limitations on racial hatred, intimidation, harassment, speech. So think about it. Why are we the outlier? What if, I want everybody to take the imagination of the pictures you saw of these people. What if they had been holding nooses and marching, swinging nooses? I just want us to think about this, about, some people say they're First Amendment absolutists, but that's not absolute. I want to make clear that people understand that's not the norm internationally. Internationally, they do not allow their citizens to be racially harassed.
And that is something we can change at the Supreme Court level. There can be a limitation on speech to include this kind of hateful rhetoric. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We're on the grind with Barbara Arnwine. More when we come forward right here at KBLA Talk 1580.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. A Washington, D.C. judge says accused January 6th pipe bomber Brian Cole Jr., who is black, is not covered by President Trump's pardons for alleged Capitol rioters. Cole's lawyers argued the clemency should apply to him, but the judge rejected that, saying Cole had not been convicted when the pardon was issued. Los Angeles County will pay $3 million to settle a federal use of force lawsuit. J.C. Houston and Damon Barnes, who are both black, accused sheriff's deputies of excessive force and false arrest after a 2023 incident outside of a Lancaster grocery store. And employees with the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner's Office are under investigation over possible leaks tied to the murder case involving black singer David. NBC LA reports more than a dozen workers are being questioned as investigators look into whether graphic autopsy details were released before the report became public. David is charged with killing teenager Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Think It Up is an initiative to activate student-powered, teacher-led learning projects. Students and teachers, how can you spark great learning experiences in your classrooms today? Join at thinkitup.org.
Our voices aren't the minority opinion.
They're the American conscience.
This is KBLA Talk 1580.
This is America.
We've got a lot to talk about. Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Please be advised.
You may want to stop eating the following foods immediately: broccoli, kale, bean sprouts, blueberries, quinoa, spinach.
Wait, what? I thought those were good for me.
Turns out, not for everyone, because what's healthy for one person can cause inflammation for another. And the only way to really know what your body needs is to listen to it.
Listen how?
That's where Viome comes in. Viome is a simple at-home gut health test that looks at your body's real-time biology using RNA to understand what's happening inside you right now. When your results come in, you'll learn exactly which foods to eat, which to avoid, and which supplements are right for you, all based on the world's largest RNA-based human biology database and thousands of clinical research studies. And many people who use Viome report more energy, better digestion, and a better mood within months. So stop guessing. Start knowing. Learn more at viome.com/gut. V as in Victor, IOME.com/GUT. And use coupon code GUTHEALTH50 to save $50 off your purchase. Viome. Trust your gut.
All I need is one mic.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. The headline in the newspaper read, Black leaders join forces to bring Destination Crenshaw toward the finish line. Now, beyond the headline phraseology of toward the finish line, if you actually read the article, it said that Black-owned contractors are now being mobilized, major new financing is being secured, and it is anticipated that construction activities will begin within the next weeks. That statement has more hedges than a Beverly Hills mansion, more hedges than a nervous groom's wedding vows written by a divorce lawyer. But it's funny how progress starts moving once somebody turns on a microphone. 4 weeks of KBLA editorials, and suddenly everyone has found their hard hats. It's amazing what happens when the community starts asking questions out loud, and this is why Black media matters. We don't need more empty promises. We need a finished project. Political accountability to Black fellow citizens means that elected officials and institutions must answer for their actions or inaction in ways that are real, measurable, and consequential when they fail to follow through. I suppose the good news here is that LA City Council President and 8th District Representative Marquise Harris Dawson is now officially on the record. But to be clear, he's also on the clock. Remember now, it is anticipated that construction activities will begin within the next weeks. We shall see. We have exercised our right to free speech, but there are other rights the Black business community can exercise as well. This is a classic example of a public nuisance claim, if ever there was one. Again, we shall see. What I can tell you is that Black business owners and Crenshaw community residents have been calling, emailing, and literally showing up in our lobby demanding more and asking how they can sign on to this effort. Put simply, after years of delay, the people have had enough. My big mama put it this way: once a task you have first begun, never finish until it is done. Be the labor great or small, do it well or not at all. Now, I need to put on my hard hat, go outside, and wait for these procrastination Crenshaw construction crews to show up. I'll let you know if and when they do. Trust and believe. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. As always, we welcome your feedback.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. It's Tenacious Tuesday on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, and that puts us right here with Barbara Arnwine, the president and founder of the Transformative Justice Coalition, internationally renowned for her contributions on critical issues, including the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1991, the 2006 reauthorization of provisions of the Voting Rights Act. Barbara, welcome forward to the show. I think Barbara might be muted.
It's great to be here.
Barbara, listen, I got a couple of quick questions for you, and then I want to pivot. I want to pivot back to this John Lewis thing in just a moment.
Yes.
But I want to ask you first, what if on that train it were a group of all black men surrounding a white woman?
There would have been, as you and I know, they would have been arrested immediately. Listen, there's a double standard that we know exists in this country. And that double standard is still with us. The double standard, still believes that no matter what a white person might do, that they are basically innocent inside. If a black person just looks a certain way, they are assumed to be guilty. And so the presumption is what it's called. And that's a racial presumption of anti-blackness that haunts black people internationally. Mm-hmm. It's not just here in the US, it's everywhere that I've ever gone in my life.
And the presumption of guilt.
The presumption of guilt, the presumption of criminality, the belief that we are genetically disposed towards criminality. One thing that this entire 250th has forced me to do is to look back at the antebellum era, to look back at this whole time that was being that surrounded the quote Declaration of Independence. And you see so much of these horrid racist beliefs that people held. But how else did they justify holding other human beings in slavery? So in brutal, vicious slavery. I mean, one thing people say slavery and they think they see mint juleps and people with aprons serving people. They don't realize slavery was one of the most inhumane, brutal, vicious, practices in mankind that's ever done to mankind. In fact, there was a grave dug up in Texas, of all places, where the bodies had been preserved and they were able to actually look at the muscular skeleton, structure of these bodies. And what they found out is that these men had been worked so hard. These enslaved Africans had been worked so hard that their muscles were literally almost torn off their bones. And people don't understand that in the Caribbean, they counted on thousands of people dying each year from being overworked, underfed and overworked. And that's what people don't understand. When you see the stories from Monticello from Thomas Jefferson's era. He's, one of the first presidents of the U.S. And you will see that part of the story there is how they have to have these quotes in what they call slave drivers to beat and whip people in order to make them work harder and to make sure that his factories were able to produce the nails and the other equipment that they produced constantly. So this whole idea, these genteel, nice, slave owners who just didn't exist, folks. It was vicious, money-driven, inhumane exploitation, and they created the mythology of what the subhuman, and put it in the Constitution, 3/5 of a human being. Let
me just add this, Barbara. I want to pivot to what's going on in Atlanta, because I think I'm going to meet you down there. But just before I do, I want to make this point about a term that you used. She said antebellum. Antebellum means after the war. A lot of people date all of American history by the war. That would be 1861 to 1865. We're not talking Vietnam. We're not talking Korea. We're not talking World War I or World War II. we're talking American politics. So the bellum, the war, is 1861 to 1865. And they date reality from that. Prebellum, that blacks have no rights that whites are bound to respect in the form of Dred Scott, is an era and a concept that's before the war. And it feels like the woman on the train had no rights that white men were bound to respect. And we're hearing that increasingly that's some pre-bellum, before the war kind of ideological thinking. And then everything after the war. Remember, the war gives us the Democratic and the Republican Party, the two-party systems. From the war emerges liberalism and conservatism. Everything after the war is the modern era, the antebellum. So the antebellum period is the longest period since the Civil War in American history, but all of our politics emanate from that event. Barbara, let me go to John Lewis for a moment. What is going on in Atlanta? What do you want us to do? How can we support the Transformative Justice Coalition? Tell us about the action that we're taking, Barbara.
I'm so glad you asked. Everybody, next week, the 17th through the 19th of July, is the John Lewis Good Trouble Lives On National Weekend of Action. We're going to teach, reach, and preach all those days. Already, as we're talking right now, almost 400 events have been posted around the country, including a whole lot in California. Thank you, Los Angeles. Thank you, everybody who has been signing up to do an event in honor of the living legacy of John Lewis, who fought for our voting rights. He spent 50 years of his life fighting for voting rights. He was beaten on that Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, trying to march from Selma to Montgomery. He was the youngest speaker at the March on Washington. He was the head of SNCC. He was a courageous, amazing person. You know, sometimes people get what I call positional legacy, but he was absolutely courageous, because he would not have been on that bridge but for the fact that he told SNCC he was going to be part of the march on March 7, 1965, and they told him that if he went into Selma and did that march, that they would relieve him of his chairmanship, that he would no longer be allowed to be the chair of SNCC because it was too violent, too dangerous, and they did not want him to be part of that. He looked at them, the story goes, and I've heard it from people who were there, that he looked at them and he said, so be it. If you got to take my chairmanship because I went to be with the people, then do it. Because I will not leave the people of Selma alone by themselves without my presence. I will be there for them come what may. That is a story that people got to understand, because a whole lot of people would have said, oh, I can't, I fought so hard to become chair. I can't afford to lose my position. He stood on courage. It was that courage that got him to the Selma Bridge. That's what people don't know. Yes.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We're on the grind with Barbara Arnwine. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward. We're going to talk about this decision by the FIFA with Barbara. We want to hear about fair and unfair rules. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, I'm Chris Holden, former California Assembly member, former mayor of Pasadena, and CEO of LA Fire Justice. I've spent my career fighting for our communities. When I saw Edison celebrating $4.5 billion in profits while Eaton fire survivors struggle to make ends meet, it made me simultaneously sick and furious. Families and individuals are dealing with financial pressure, insurance delays, costly remediation, and the painful question of how to rebuild their lives, while the utility that caused the fire is paying its executives millions and is more profitable than ever. That's not justice. That's a disgrace. Join the lawsuit with LA Fire Justice to hold Edison accountable. We're here to help you, your family, and our community recover. Visit lafirejustice.com today to learn more about your eligibility and how to start.
Advertisement. Douglas Boxer, 221 East Walnut Street, Suite 100, Pasadena, California, 91101 is the attorney responsible for this ad.
LA Fire Justice is proud to sponsor Conversation Live, Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
At Charmin, we heard you shouldn't talk about going to the bathroom in public, so we decided to sing about it.
Light a candle, pour some wine. Grab a roll, the soft kind for a little me time. Charmin Ultra Soft Smooth Tear. Wavy edges for my rear. So let the softness caress your soul. Just relax, you're on a roll. Let her rip. Charmin Ultra Soft Smooth Tear.
Charmin Ultra Soft Smooth Tear has the same softness you love, now with wavy edges that tear better than the leading one-ply brand. Enjoy the go with Charmin.
Small businesses are the heart of America. But you don't have to go it alone. As the nation's largest nonprofit resource of expert business mentoring, SCORE has helped millions of entrepreneurs build their businesses for free. Get the connections, education, and guidance you need with SCORE. We're ready to help. Find a mentor today at score.org.
Lena Bloom for the Bail Project. Imagine you're stuck in a jail cell and you can't afford bail and someone offers you a way out. Just plead guilty and you can go home and kiss your kids goodnight. What do? What thousands have. You plead guilty whether you are or not. Cash bail makes poverty a crime. That's why the Bail Project helps those who can't afford it while fighting to end cash bail. Because freedom should be free. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. 10 Toes In serves as a mentorship and domestic violence prevention program. They support, educate, and empower couples during and after incarceration. They assist male returning citizens to re-enter society successfully and to help them maintain a healthy relationship with their romantic partner. They offer a mentorship support group for formerly incarcerated men. 10 Toes In teaches its Intimate Relationships 101 curriculum at male prisons throughout the state of California. They host sister support group meetings for women who are intimately involved with incarcerated and formerly incarcerated men. 10 Toes In is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. To access their services or make a donation, please visit them online at 10toesin.org or find them on Facebook or Instagram. They are healing lives through relationships. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
See website for details. MyFastCash.com is not a lender and does not make credit decisions. Must be 18 years old. Not available in all states.
The mechanic called. The repair's going to be $750.
Oh, we got rent and the car payment on top of groceries, gas, and other bills. We don't have an extra $750 right now.
We could try MyFastCash.com. When short on expenses, you can go to MyFastCash.com and could get money as soon as the next day.
MyFastCash.com.
Yes, they can connect you to one of the largest lender networks, and you can get a loan even with bad credit. We could be approved for up to $5,000 fast.
$5,000? That must be a long process.
Nope, approval can happen in just a few minutes right from your phone, and funds could hit our account by tomorrow.
If you have a regular source of income and a bank account, you could be approved for up to $5,000, even with bad credit history. And the cash can hit your bank account the next day.
Honey, I'm going to myfastcash.com right now.
Thank goodness.
If you need extra cash, go to myfastcash.com. That's myfastcash.com. myfastcash.com.
Loan availability, approval, and funding times vary. Terms apply.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 15.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to our final segment on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show at KBLA Talk 1580. Our very special guest is none other than Barbara Arnwine, who's always on the grind and the president of the Transformative Justice Coalition. Barbara, very quickly before I get to our final two questions, how can we support your work? Unmute, Barbara.
You can go to tjcoalition.org, tjcoalition.org, and make a donation. We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
How can we join you in Atlanta? Where do we meet up in Atlanta? What do we need to do to be part of Good Trouble?
We're working. That's what I've been working on the whole time this show has been going on and more longer. It's on the exact location, and we will be posting that on our website. People can go to not only tjcoalition.org, but Good Trouble Lives On. Now, if you want to go to Good Trouble Lives On right now, you want to do three things. You want to look for how you can become, your organization can become a partner. You want to look for how you might host an event. You could do a watch party with just 10 people. You could do a rally. You could do a voter registration drive. You can do a canvassing drive. You can do movie showing. There's so much you can do in honor of the legacy of John Lewis and to help make sure that we are all making sure that we're prepared to vote in 2026. The other thing you can do is you can find where's an event near you that you can attend. I do this all the time when there's a major mobilization, and I decide if I'm going to be part of a bridge brigade. I decide if I'm going to be part of a watch party. I decide if I'm going to go to a rally. I decide if I'm going to march. I mean, there will be all these kinds of events because on the Teach Day, which is the 17th, we're going to be teaching people about how to protect their voting rights. On the 18th, we're going to be reaching people to make sure that they're registered to vote, even those who have been purged and those who think they're registered but may no longer be on the list. And the third thing we're going to do is we're going to preach on that Sunday. And we have churches and we have synagogues and we have temples and we have all kinds of formations joining us.
Barbara, quick question, last pivot, last question before your word of hope. Did some Americans quietly root for us to lose at the World Cup, even though they felt bad for the team members? And did the team seem a little off in spirit because of the stress and the sideshow and the perception that our nation rigged the game when the chief executive of our country called the head of the FIFA organization? Barbara?
There's certain things that are just inappropriate. And I think that people, when you're in a sport, you want to win it based on your talent and based on your team spirit and your team capabilities. You do not want any impression that somebody's put their finger on the scale. And I think that the interference by the president was totally inappropriate under these circumstances.
You know, it's very hard for me to believe that given Donald Trump's love of sport, that he's not put his finger on sporting events in the past, from boxing to soccer to
what about golf?
UFC. We see him pick up his golf ball all the time. And switch another one out of his pocket.
And some other stuff on the golf course. Yes. So, so I just want, people to understand that, it's not a hatred of America. It's a hatred of an arrogance that assumes that you are entitled, that you're privileged, that you're better.
Terrible lessons for our children. Terrible lessons for our children in this as well, right, Barbara? I mean,
yes,
this is not
absolutely
the kind of example we want to see.
Not at all. But that's why it's important for those like us to use those First Amendment freedom of speech rights to speak out when we see something that's wrong. And remember, that's what John Lewis said. If you see something that's wrong, say something. If you see something that's wrong, do something. That was one of his famous, quotes. You know, he is without question such a motivating factor towards good in our country. And that's why I'm so amazed and happy with all the people who are going to turn out next week and be part of Good Trouble Lives On. But I'll see you hopefully next Tuesday prior to then to talk about what's going on and to bring you all that great news and hopefully to see you in Atlanta because I can't wait.
It was an honor to serve in the Congress of the United States for 17 years with John Lewis. I sure sorely miss him. And I'm glad that Barbara Arnwine is carrying on the work. Barbara, we have about 2 minutes before the end of the show. Can you provide the country with a word of hope?
Yes. The most important thing, people, is to take a stance. You know, I took a stance and I wrote on the 4th of July. I wrote about this book. And what I reminded people is that the Declaration of Independence reminds us when government fails to serve the people, that rebellion is required. And I talked about all of those slave revolts, even post the Declaration of Independence, especially Nat Turner and so many others. And I talked about the revolts that have happened in our cities, you know, in the 70s and the 60s, 70s, during many periods of history when Black people have been particularly abused and we have risen up. I just talked about that because I want to remind people that this is our country. It owes all of us, every single American is owed human dignity and the right to vote. And so people, let's get our vote on. Let's never turn our backs on what our ancestors did to build this country so that we would have the right to vote.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You've been listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. We want to thank Barbara Arnwine for her regular contribution to our show. I mean, she is some kind of busy. I'm looking forward to seeing her in Atlanta in the not too distant future. Thank you very much for joining us. Looking forward to hearing and seeing everyone tomorrow. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.